What conspiracy theories actually make sense and could be true? Over the years, I've become more and more convinced that the 1962 Alcatraz escapee survived. I think it was very plausible. I've swum from Alcatraz Island across the bay dozens of times in open water events in many different weather and current conditions. I've swum the entire distance around the island and the distance under the span of the Golden Gate. The water in June, when they escaped, is not that cold, and the currents are actually helpful if used to one's advantage. Alcatraz is not as far out as it appears from shore either. I can do it in 35 minutes, and I'm not any kind of champion swimmer, just someone who likes to swim open water. I do recognize these guys were not swimmers at all, but they had a raft, and with steady progress and a go with the current mentality, they could have easily made the shore. A lot of the more stupid conspiracy theories were made up. In order to make conspiracy theories in general be expected to not have any logic, this way, a true one might be ignored. The 10-year challenge on Facebook in 2018, which encouraged FB users to upload pictures from 2008 and a current one from 2018, was actually a front by programmers to gain data and examples to train facial recognition and age progression software. I know I'm going to get hella down thumbs for this, but all the masking over the last 2 years has drastically increased their ability to detect who you are with your face covered. All the Olympic athletes' faces were fully covered when they went through check-in using self-check-in cameras, and it knew exactly who each person was. I'll give you one that definitely is real. The US government, with the assistance of several other countries around the world, secretly stole body parts from infants from university samples, stillbirths, and some on-the-record allusions to bodies pulled from indigent burials, so they could test the bones for radiation, to determine the effects of nuclear bomb detonation, to determine the impact, and if there was any safe amount of nuclear explosion. It's called Project Sunshine. A huge part of, if not the primary function of, the sales that take place in the fine arts scene occur as a way for various entities to launder dirty money. The FBI assassinated Martin Luther King. They have been being sued, and freedom of information requests have been filed by his family. The FBI has responded that any records pertaining to MLK death they have would be a threat to national security if released. The FBI has already been forced to release documents pertaining to attempts on Martin Luther King life and attempts to plant evidence that could be used to send him to jail, as well as extensive blackmail attempt. They try to kill him before. It makes sense that, if they did, they would fight tooth and nail to keep it secret. That there actually might not be any gold in Fort Knox. There's a lot of stuff that doesn't add up about it, and I've been there in my time in the army, and it was boringish with a pretty relaxed security as compared to other installations I've been on. When this conspiracy was hitting its peak in 2017, Treasury Secretary Stephen Mnuchin took a $27K military aircraft trip there. There are pictures of him in a weird chalkboard-lined room with several stacks of what appear to be gold bars behind him. But oddly enough, these pictures are in a grainy black and white, so you can't actually confirm what he's holding. Before this trip, the last known outside audit of Fort Knox was in 1953. It's the only conspiracy I can get behind. PETA is ran by the meat industry to delegitimize meat reduction and animal rights. Mattress stores are a front for something illegal/shady. Surprisingly, mattress stores are actually a terrible front for money laundering. They tend to do so well and open up in so many locations because they have huge profit margins coupled with really low overhead. Most mattress stores only need 1 to 2 employees to operate and don't need to change displays or stock frequently. They also charge substantial markups on their mattresses, which don't cost nearly as much when purchased wholesale. As a result, even if they only sell a mattress or 2 a day, they'll still usually turn a profit. Conversely, money laundering tends to work well in business that can have small, constant transactions in cash without looking suspicious. This is why restaurants are used as fronts so frequently. It's easy to sneak an extra $1,000 of dirty cash through a business that's already taking thousands of dollars of cash payment normally. This would be extremely hard to do with a mattress store, where a high volume of cash transactions would stand out like a sore thumb. Moreover, The comparatively low number of transactions at a mattress store would make it far easier to investigate each payment for misconduct, whereas the sheer volume of cash transactions at somewhere like a restaurant makes it very hard to comb through every time cash is exchanged. North Korea hasn't been properly Kim controlled since Kim Il-sung, who died in 1994. Since then it's been a military junta and the Kims are kept on somewhat of a leash. For continuity and to give the plebs something to rally around and focus on. Fear keeps them in line and it's all theater that gives them a sense of purpose, so they don't ask too many questions. Kim Jong-il even said to a foreign visitor that it was all fake and his people hated him. The elites are effectively held to ransom in a life of obscene luxury and there is a lot of paranoia, jockeying and rival factions. High-ranking defectors and various diplomats have actually hinted at this. It's also well known that the top military ranks know their situation is a joke and that they would get squashed by anyone they went to war with. It's just yet another way of rallying the population around a cause and keeping them on their toes. South Korea and the CIA have also said they cannot be 100% sure exactly what's going on and how the system really works. There have also been leaks that suggest the well-informed North Korean diplomatic class are privately not happy with one Kim after another and feel that something has to give. FWIW, I don't see North Korea surviving in its current form for another 25 years. The situation there now appears to be truly desperate and the worst that's been seen in years. A lighter one. But in football, soccer, players get a yellow card when they take their shirt off when celebrating a goal. This is a directive from sponsors because the cameras focus on the goal scorer when they are celebrating, and if they don't have their shirt on, the sponsors' logos aren't able to be seen by viewers. They want that image of the celebrating player on the TV, on the news reports, printed in the paper, so that the sponsors on the shirt get seen by everyone. So the sponsors issue a directive that they want the players to be made to keep their shirt on, resulting in a booking. Atlantis was real. It was located in Northwest Africa at a place now known as the Richard Structure. It wasn't an advanced, futuristic society that sunk to the bottom of the ocean, but it was a port city with wider access to information and latest technological advancements, and was washed away in the Great Flood, depicted in numerous cultures and religions. Its reputation and fate were exaggerated over the years, as does often happen with documented historical accounts. The Titanic never sank. The Olympic, sister ship, hit a Navy carrier and was found at fault, causing the White Star Line thousands in damages. This was proven by records. The theory is the Olympic was taken back to the shipyard, cosmetically repaired and the nameplates were switched. Then she sailed under the name Titanic and was sunk on purpose for the insurance money. There was never supposed to be a loss of life, as there were 3 rescue vessels around the area she had sank. Proven fact, though all 3 underwent a problem that contributed to them not reaching or communicating with the Titanic in time that fateful night, and 2 of the ships got cited for being in a place they shouldn't have been by maritime officials. Their logs showed they weren't supposed to be there, yet they were recorded as sitting stagnant at those coordinates for days, proven by citation records. In addition, the direction was wrong. The Titanic sailed further north of the shipping lanes than she was supposed to. This would also explain why the temp went from 70s mid-afternoon to icy by nightfall. The temp dropping is another proven fact according to witness statements. The Titanic also underwent a series of misfortune during its voyage. Binoculars lost, wrong coordinates, using SOS instead of CQD, exceeding recommended specs, all of which contributed to its sinking, and the tragic loss of life. There's a few documentaries and a few books written about it. Interesting concept, and by now, completely unable to prove or disprove. My favorite JFK theory, the hat making industry of Danbury, Connecticut was behind it. He wasn't the first president to not wear a hat, but as we all know, he and his wife were very much in the public eye and fashionable. People saw him not wearing a hat and the trend took off and hurt the hat industry, which was a big industry in Danbury. I actually wrote an article on this, and there's more to it. Hat wearing was at its peak from the late 19th century until the end of the 1920s, when the practice began to decline. Nobody, however, has pinpointed one sole reason why this happened, but there are several key things that are strongly believed to have contributed. The most popular attributed cause is the rise of closed cars and other transportation. As covered cars became more popular, the necessity for a hat diminished, with low roofs meaning you couldn't wear a hat while driving, and generally had no need to cover your head anyway. Personal transport often negated the need for headwear. Looking at US figures, in 1920 less than 1% of the population owned a car. By 1940, that rose to around 1 in 4 people. By 1970 it was 55%. Men still bought hats, but they weren't worn as regularly as previously when the majority of people walked everywhere, rode horses or traveled in open carriages. The rise of the car also meant fewer people were using public transport, so there was no walk from home to the train in the drizzle, you were covered by the roof of your car. Another theory posited suggests that the hat suffered a serious decline after the end of World War II because it was an unwelcome reminder of the time people had spent in uniform. Men who fought did not want to wear hats with civilian clothes after the war. A 1947 survey for the Hat Research Foundation, yes, a real entity, found that 19% of men who did not wear hats gave "because I had to" in the army as the main reason. The previous year, the Hat Research Foundation had tried to arrest the decline, having taken out adverts claiming you need a hat to work magic, and there was clearly a promotion drive. The hat industry initially believed going without one was a fad, with newspaper reports in 1948 bemoaning the new barehead fashion, but they soon realized the decline could be permanent. In England there were even reports of people who dared to walk bareheaded in hat-making towns, such as Denton and Stockport near Manchester, being abused by workers who saw their livelihoods being threatened. Indeed, using the FA Cup final as a barometer, this fear seems to be borne out. A photo from the 1948 FA Cup final between Manchester United and Blackpool shows more fans without a hat than with one, and it's worth bearing in mind that they were all standing in an uncovered stadium with no protection from the rain, so a hat would actually have been a sensible idea at that point. In 1953, columnist Hal Boyle, during National Hat Week, suggested they may be on the way out because people hate to part with 2 bits to park their pork pie, a type of hat, every time they go to a nightclub, and warned that the hat may be going the same way as vests and high-button shoes. The fact that those with commercial interests invented a National Hat Week suggests Hal may have had a point, though of course the decline was more gradual, as some of the older generation carried on wearing them out of habit. The general belief is that when a formerly functional item of clothing becomes purely decorative, it usually doesn't last more than a generation or 2, but that wouldn't explain why the tie remains a requirement for many offices. Perhaps its demise is yet to come. Hats are still around of course, and one style is currently popular. Right now baseball caps are on trend and sales are soaring, with Top Man reporting a 26% year-on-year increase in sales, and online retailer ASOS saying sales have more than doubled. Meanwhile, anyone wearing a top hat looks like an idiot. The last time a great man wore a top hat was John F. Kennedy before his inauguration. Kennedy, however, removed it before making his speech. Many wrongly cite JFK's speech as the great hatless moment that precipitated the decline, but in truth the decline had started years before. For Esquire magazine,